Hello students, how are you all? Hope you all are doing well. So today we are back with a new short story, a very famous short story written by a very famous Bengali writer. His name is Rabindranath Tagore. So the name of our short story is Atithi or Guest. All right, so let's get started. So, children, we all know about Rabindranath Tagore. He received Nobel Prize in the year 1913 for his very famous collection of poems known as Gitanjali, which he initially wrote in Bengali. And in English, this particular work, Gitanjali, which is a collection of poems, is known as Song Offerings. All right, so let us begin with this particular short story, Atithi now. Before beginning the story, let me tell you one thing that this particular story, Atithi, is featured in his short story collection known as Golpagucho. Alright, so this can be asked in your MCQs that in which particular collection of short stories is this Atithi, is this short story included? So the answer to it would be Golpagucho. You can mark that answer. Alright, so let's begin with the short story. Please come to page number 123 in your book Prism. Look at the last paragraph. The short story, The Guest, describes a free-spirited young lad. So this is a very important line. This particular short story, it is about a free-spirited young lad. Whenever you are writing an answer, whenever they ask you about Tarapada, his character sketch, this line is very important, that he is a free-spirited young lad. Tarapada, who refuses to be bound by any of the bonds of society. When we'll read, we'll come to know what kind of story this is. So this particular paragraph is very important. You can incorporate this paragraph in your answers. Please go through it. This is very important. So now, children, let's begin with the short story. Let's begin with the short story Atithi, written by Rabindranath Tagore. He begins with Moti Lal Babu. The author of the story begins with a person named Moti Lal Babu, who is the Zamindar of Kathalia, who was returning home with his family by boat. So one thing that you will find as common in the stories of Rabindranath Tagore is boats. Boats are used very commonly as a symbol in Rabindranath Tagore's poems and short stories. You will find boats which are moored against the ghats. So this is something very common that you are definitely going to find in the short stories and poetry of Rabindranath Tagore. So, Motilal Babu, who is a zamindar, who is Motilal Babu? He is a zamindar who was returning home with his family by boat. One afternoon, he moored the boat near a riverside market so that their meal could be prepared. A Brahmin boy came over and asked, "Where are you going, Babu?" The boy was not more than 15 or 16. He was a teenage boy. And then Motilal Babu replied that I am going to Kathalia. And then that boy, that the age of that boy is 15 or 16 years old. He's a teenage boy. He said that, "Could you drop me at Nandigram on the way?" He did not reveal his identity. He did not reveal his name. He's just asking that person, Motilal Babu, "Could you please drop me at Nandigram on the way?" So Motilal consented, and then Motilal asks him that, "What is your name?" By the way, what is your name? He asked. Then Tarapada said. Then the boy said that my name is Tarapada. All right. Now the next paragraph is very important. This is the character sketch of Tarapada. This is all about the physical features of Tarapada. The fair-skinned boy was beautiful to look at. Why did the author use the word beautiful here? He is a boy. He should have used the word handsome, not beautiful. Why do you think he used the word beautiful? Because we can refer to young boys as beautiful. Since he is a young boy, he is a teenage boy, the author has used the word beautiful to address him. All right, that is why he has not used the word handsome. He is not an adult. All right, that's why he used the word beautiful. So, children, when talking about the physical constitution of Tarapada, first thing that you are going to mention about Tarapada that he was a fair-skinned boy and was beautiful to look at. Second thing that you are going to mention about his facial features could be his smile, and his large eyes had the grace of youth. And then you can mention that his body was bare except for a stained dhoti. So he wore a stained dhoti on his body, and his body was free of any excess, as if lovingly carved by a sculptor. So here the author compares his body as a creation, as a creation of a sculptor, as if his body was created by a sculptor. Now, children, when we read the very next lines, we find that this young lad Tarapada was very beautiful to look at. He was not crude or coarse at all. His body was as if it was perfected, it was refined and sharpened by the sculptor itself. And he looked like a refined and perfect sculpture, as if the artist or the Almighty God, the sculptor himself has created with his, or the sculptor himself has carved him with his own beautiful hands, as if he had been a young sage whose religious or pious devotion from the past life had removed all dirt and coarseness and refined him, sharpened him to gleaming or shining Brahminical perfection. Here, the word Brahminical perfection is very important. This boy is a very epitome of Brahminical perfection. These lines are very beautiful to look at. That how the author compares his body to a creation of a sculptor. Now, further, Motilal Babu tenderly said the boy that you can also join us, you can eat with us, because we all know that while returning back to Kathalia, they stopped for a while and they started preparing for meal. So now the meal is ready, and he is asking this young lad that you can also join us, you can also eat with us. But Motilal's servant, he was a Hindustani. Now, he was not very good at cutting up fish. So, as he is a Hindustani, he is a North Indian, so he is not good at cutting up fish. So, Tarapada took over and soon had the dish ready and had cooked some vegetables too with practiced skill. So, from here, we can get to know about Tarapada's skills, that he was very skilled at cooking. He then took a dip in the river and, opening his bundle, produced a clean white garment and a small wooden comb. He sleeked his long hair away from his forehead and down to his neck. Here, sleeked means smooth and shining. And he adjusted his glistening sacred thread, which is symbolic of Brahmanism. Brahmins wear this sacred thread. And he then stepped onto the boat after doing this. So, Motilal Babu, from this very paragraph, we get to know about the skills of Tarapada, that he was a skilled lad, he was skilled in cooking, and about his religious devotions as well, that he took dip in the holy water and then he changed his clothes, combed his hair. And then in the next paragraph, we find that Motilal Babu invited him into the cabin. His wife and his 9-year-old daughter were also there. So, who were there in the family of Motilal Babu? His wife and his 9-year-old daughter. His wife, the name of his wife, Motilal's Babu wife, is Annapurna, was tenderly, this particular woman, Annapurna, who is Motilal's wife, was tenderly attracted to the boy. Tenderly attracted to the boy here means that he has motherly feelings, maternal instincts for the boy. All right. So, because when she saw him and wondered, whose child is he? Where has he come from? How could his mother bear to abandon him? He's such a beautiful and lovely boy to look at. How could his mother have the heart to leave and abandon him? Because she herself is a mother of a 9-year-old daughter. So how can she think of being separated from her own a daughter. So this is the motherly instinct that she feels towards this boy, that how can a mother live without such a beautiful and lovely boy? How can she bear to abandon him? She placed mats for Motilal and the boy to sit on side by side. The boy was not a big eater, means he had a very light appetite. He was not an Epicurean. He was not a voracious eater. All right. You'll get to know as the story progresses that why he was such a boy, why he was not attached to all such pleasures of the tongue or pleasures, or why he was not attached to people. All right, you'll get to know. He was not an Epicurean. He was not a voracious eater. He was not a trencher man. He was not a slave to his tongue. He was a very light eater. Now, further, Annapurna felt he must be shy, and she tried to get him to eat this or that. But when he had finished, he would not be tempted to more. He clearly did everything according to his own wishes, but with such ease that there was nothing assertive about him. He was not at all shy. Why did the author write that the young lad was not shy at all? Because, as a free spirited lad, he was not tempted to more, because he was already satiated with the amount of food he had, and therefore he was not tempted to take more. And he was also not assertive or aggressive in his behavior, because this particular lad, he was free spirited and he has mind of his own. He worked according to his own will, and in this he was not at all domineering, he was not at all dominating, and he was not rude to others. It's just that he was detached from all such temptations, or he was not a slave to his tongue. From this particular paragraph, we get to know about his behavior, about his demeanor. All right. So, moving on. When everyone had eaten, Annapurna sat him next to her and asked him about his background, about his family details. Because, as a curious person, she was actually curious about this boy, to know more about him. She didn't gather much. All she could establish was that the boy had run away from home on his own volition, at his own free will, at the age of 7 or 8. So, at the age of 7 or 8, this boy ran away from his own on his own will, on his own volition. And from this particular paragraph, we get to know that this boy didn't reveal much about himself. All right. Then Annapurna asked him, "Isn't your mother alive?" Tarapada replied, "She is alive." Then Annapurna asked him, "Doesn't she love you?" And in a reaction, Tarabada seemed to find this question very odd and peculiar. He replied, "Why shouldn't she love me?" He said laughingly. "Then why did you leave her?" said Annapurna. "She has 4 more sons and 3 daughters." Means in total, there were 8 children in the house, 5 sons, including him, and 3 girls. All right, there were 8 children in total for the mother to take care. Tarapada was young, so his life story was brief. But the boy was a complete original. He was his parents' fourth son. This is something important that you need to pay attention to. He was his parents' fourth son and was still a baby when his father died. This is about his family background. You can include this in his character sketch as well. Despite there being so many in the house, so many children were there in the house, Tarapada was the darling of all. So, children, in spite of so many children in the house, Tarapada was the darling of all. A mother, brothers, sisters, and neighbors doted on him. They showered their love on this beautiful boy. So much so that his tutor never beat him. Everyone would have been appalled, they would have been shocked if he had. There was no reason for him to leave because everyone showed love to this great boy. Everyone loved him dearly. They doted on him. Half starved boys who constantly stole fruit from trees and were thrashed by the owners of the trees. They never strayed from the village or their scolding mothers. But this darling of everyone joined a touring Yatra troupe and left his village without a thought. Now, children, here author mentions about Jatra troupe, that the young lad he joins a Jatra troupe. Now, what is a Jatra troupe? It is a kind of group that travels from one place to the other. It is a traveling group that performs Jatra. What is Jatra? It is a popular folk theatre which hails from Bengal, Odisha, Assam, and parts of Bangladesh. This particular folk theatre, which is a popular folk theatre in Bengal especially, it features music, dance, and drama, often telling stories from epics, Puranas, and it also addresses contemporary social issues as well. So, this is the role of Jatra troupe. And children, from this particular paragraph, we get to know about this boy as well. That although this young lad, this free spirited boy, although this boy was loved dearly by everyone around by his mother, his sisters, his brothers, by his teacher as well, but then too, he left his homeland without a second thought. And those half starved boys who were scolded by their mothers and the owners of the trees, they never left the place. And this young boy who was loved, who was adored by everyone around him, he left his homeland without a second thought. And children, there is one more line that this particular boy was a complete original of himself, that this particular boy was innocent as before, although he left his homeland at a very early age. He never indulged in any sort of bad activities. He was as innocent as before. He was the original of himself. All right. Moving on to the next paragraph, then search parties went out and he was brought back. His mother pressed him to her breast and drenched him with tears. He was loved so dearly. His sisters wept too. His elder brother tried to perform his duty as guardian, but he soon abandoned his feeble attempts at discipline. Now, even his elder brother tried to perform his duty as guardian, but he soon abandoned his feeble attempts at discipline and welcomed him with open arms. Now, as we know that his Tarapada's father died when he was a baby, so at a very young age, his elder brother might have taken the charge of the family. The entire responsibility must be on the shoulder of the elder brother. So he acted as a guardian. So, as a guardian, he might have tried to stop Tarapada from leaving the house. So he might have brought him back. But now he has also given up all hopes that if he wants to leave the house, it's okay for them because he is a wanderer, he is a free spirited lad. So he has also kind of given all hopes from that boy. He has given up all hopes that he is not going to come back. But when he came back, he would welcome him with open arms. So women also invited him to their houses, piled him with greater displays of affection. But he would not accept ties, even ties of love. His stars had made him a wanderer. This line is very important, that his stars had made him a wanderer. If he saw strange boats on the river, these lines are very important. If he saw strange boats on the river, or a sannyasi from a distant region under the local peepal tree, or if gypsies sat by the river making mats or wicker baskets, his heart would stir with longing to be free, to explore the outside world. And after he had run away 2 or 3 times, family and villagers gave up hope of him. So, what does these lines mean? That this boy, this free spirited lad who was a wanderlust, he did not wish to restrict himself to the four corners of the house, but instead he wanted to explore the outer world. He was attracted to strange music, he was attracted to nature, to strange boats moored against the ghats. He was also attracted to these sannyasis, because these sannyasis, again, they are detached from all sorts of worldly ties. He was such a soul, he never wanted to be, he was not bound to worldly ties and relationships, because again these worldly ties and relationships, they kind of demand attachment. He did not want to get attached to the world, to the worldly ties or to the relationship, because he was a wanderer. He wanted to explore the outer world without attaching to anyone or anything. All right, so this is the entire essence of this paragraph. Again, moving on to the next paragraph, again he joined a Jatra troupe at first, but when the master of the troupe began to treat him almost as a son, and the members of the troupe, young and old, had all fallen for him because they all started liking him, they also showered their love on him, and even the people in the houses were where they performed, especially the women, began to make a special fuss of him, because they also started competing for the affection they gave to him. All right, so that's why they started making fuss of him. One day, without saying a word, he disappeared and could not be found. Why do you think he did like that? Because wherever relationships or emotions, a kind of emotions, when these things started to develop, he left them, because he saw that these people are getting attached to this boy. He never wanted to restrict himself to worldly ties, to love, to emotional ties. So that's why he wanted to leave. He left everything. He wanted to detach from everything, because he wanted to explore as a free spirited man, as a free spirited lad, and a wanderlust who just wanted to travel, who was attracted to nature and strange things. This is the reason he left.
Now, moving on to the next paragraph, which goes like Tarapada was as weary of ties as a young fawn, and was also like a deer in his love of music. The songs of the Jatra troupe were what had first lured him away from home. This is an important line. The songs of the Jatra were what had first lured him away from home. Melodies sent a trembling through his veins, and rhythms made his body swing.
In the very first line, Rabindranath Tagore compares Tarapada to a young fawn. We all know that a baby deer is highly symbolic of its innocence and vulnerability. Tarapada is in the same way compared to this young fawn, to this baby deer. Alright, we all know that Tarapada is a teenage boy who is a wanderlust, who wants to explore the world, is not tied down by worldly ties, connections, and commitments. So, as a wandering boy, he loves nature. He's deeply attached and attracted to nature, music, and his own independence. His deep-seated desire for freedom, it is highly symbolized by Fawn's weariness. All right, which ultimately leads him to run away from these worldly ties and emotional commitments. This is the reason why he chooses his nomadic life over love and security, which he finds at home. All right, this particular line, it evokes an image of a delicate animal. Delicate animal is a baby deer, all right, that quickly runs away from anything which is quite unfamiliar to it, or which is very binding. It kind of represents his innocence, vulnerability, and his need for freedom. All right. Now, in this particular line, children, ties, this very word which is ties, Tarapada was as wary of ties. Ties here would mean worldly ties, worldly commitment, and attachment to the worldly ties. All right. So, this particular line here, ties, emotional ties, would also mean a hunter or a predator. It also refers to a hunter or a predator. Just as a delicate fawn is very cautious in the forest, it is cautious of the predator, it is cautious of the hunter, it is cautious that it would fall prey, it would become a prey to the predator, which is the hunter. It would become a prey to the worldly ties. Likewise, Tarapada is also afraid of becoming a prey to these worldly ties, to these attachments. All right. So just as a deer, now coming to the next line, just as a deer is as alert, it is highly reactive. It reacts immediately to the sounds in the forest. Similarly, Tarapada also deeply feels, and he is highly reactive. He responds to the subtle musical cues in the nature, which is the rain and the wind. All right. Now, like a free spirited lad, he is also quite restless because he does not want to be tied down by worldly ties, and instead he is drawn to exploration and new experiences. He has a kind of innate connection and spiritual pull towards music. He is highly attracted to music. This is the reason, all right? So, here he describes his desire for liberty. He finds solace in the sounds of the nature. Now, this particular line, that he's highly attracted to nature, it is a kind to he's highly attracted to music and nature. It is kind of sharp contrast with the confining nature of the society, with the rules and regulations of the society. This line is in sharp contrast with that. All right. So, moving on to the next line, which is impelled by this passion for music, it was not long before he had joined a group of Panchali singers. First, he joined a Jatra group, and secondly, he joined a group of Panchali singers. Now, what is Panchali? Panchali are the ballads of gods and goddesses. These are the old narrative forms of songs and stories in Assamese and Bengali culture. All right. So the leader of the group the master carefully taught him songs and trained him to recite Panchali by heart. So he taught Tarapada to recite Panchali. All right. So he too began. So now his teacher also started doting on him. He also adored Tarapada. So this is the reason why he detached from here as well. He too began to love him as his own. Like a pet cage bird, Tarapada learnt a few songs and then one morning flew away. Just like a pet bird is trained by a master, so was Tarapada. And one day he finally flew away because he doesn't want to be attached to the relationships. He wants to be free from these attachments. Finally, he joined a troupe of gymnasts. First, he joined Jatra troupe. Secondly, he joined a group of Panchali singers. And thirdly, he joined a troupe of gymnasts. From Jesht to Ashad. Now, Ashad, children, it is the fourth month of the Hindu calendar, and Jesht is the third month of the Hindu calendar. A fair toured the district. Jatra troops, Panchali singers, bards means poets, dancers and stall holders travelled by boat from one side to another. For the second year running, this round of entertainment included a small gymnastics troupe from Calcutta. At first, Tarapada joined the stall holders, sold pan at the fair, so you have to keep these things in mind. He sold pan at the fair when he joined the stall holders. All right. After that, his natural curiosity drew him to the wonderful skills of the gymnasts because he was always ready to learn. He was a curious lad. He wanted to explore the world. So he also joined this wonderful group of gymnasts because he was kind of attracted to their skills, and he joined their troupe. He had taught himself to play the flute very well. In the gymnastic group, he learned to play the flute very well. You have to keep this in mind. During the gymnastic display, he had to play Lucknowi Tumris at top speed on the flute. This was his only task when he joined the gymnastic group. Now, Lucknow Tumris are a kind of love song which are frequently light and popular in character, and they are often used in theatrical performances. All right. Next, it was from this troupe that he had most recently ran away, that he most recently absconded from this particular good group. He flew away from this gymnastic group. All right. So he had heard that the zamindars at Nandigram had founded, on a lavish scale, on a grand scale, an amateur jatra troupe. So he tied up his bundle and headed for the place, meeting Motilal Babu on the way. So, who is an amateur? It is a person who takes part in an activity for pleasure and not for money. Alright, so he met Motilal Babu in the way. We all have started from there only. The story began from there only, alright? So, despite these connections with various groups he had joined, we know that he had joined various groups, Jatra troupe, gymnastic group, alright, and the Panchali ones, yes. His nature had not been corrupted by any. He did not pick up any bad thing from any group. He was deep down entirely detached and free. He did not pick up any bad habit from these groups. He did not indulge himself in any sort of bad activities. All right. The foul language he had heard while he was in these groups, the dreadful sights he had seen had not fixed themselves in his mind. They passed him by. These lines are also very important. You have to write them down. He remained unbound by any kind of habit or custom. He was detached from any such habit or custom. He swam in the murky waters of the world with pure white wings like a swan. However, many times his curiosity made him dive in. His wings could not be soaked or soiled. There was a pure and natural innocence in this runaway boy's expression. These lines are also important. So much so that the worldly wise Motilal Babu invited him in without doubt or question and with great tenderness. So, in these particular line, the author is metaphorically comparing Tarapada, this young lad, to a swan, which is a symbol of purity, peace, eternal bliss, and detachment as well. Just as a swan swims in water without its feathers getting wet or soiled, Tarapada moves through the complexities, emotional ties, and murky waters of the world without becoming emotionally entangled, without getting emotionally involved or tainted by them. All right. So, here in these particular lines, the author is portraying Tarapada as a figure of beauty, innocence, gentle. He is portraying his gentle and calm demeanor through these particular lines. That's, as such was this boy. He was so detached from these worldly ties. He never indulged in any sort of bad activities. He lived in such murky waters, but he did not, but his feathers were not soiled by these murky rivers, murky waters, all right, dirty water, all right. He was portrayed as a symbol of purity, all right. So this kind of reflects his role as a guest in the lives of others, because he kind of moves from one place to the other without being bound by relationships. He was not bound by any relation, all right. So this is the reason why he compares him to a bird who flies away and migrates and is detached from the worldly ties. All right. This also tells us about his inability to be tied down by societal expectations or affection. All right.